Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to your audience. You're listening to the discussion aisle, and I'm your host Sohaib bin Noor, only on Planet FM 87.6. And your audience, as always, we are trying to bring a special guest in our show on a special topic that we're going to discuss, and on your special channel that is Planet FM 87.6. And your audience, as I always love to talk upon the issues that are related to our youth and the young bulge, and alhamdulillah we are on the second spot in the world with almost 65% of youth. And although we have some lesser opportunities, but the fact is that we have that brilliance that no one can compete. And even most of the countries in the world, they always try to highlight that Pakistani youth, and even the intelligence and the ratio of brilliance is higher among anyone in the world. And today we have a special guest, and we're going to talk to her about the youth opportunities. She is a youth activist, I must say, and she keep on engaging the youth of different universities, from different colleges and different parts of our society and economic system. She keep on engaging them to be a productive one. And I was the one back, I mean to say, maybe a decade before. We just met, and she just trained me on some special topics, and she conducted some capacity building trainings. And luckily, I was the one that I just attended her training under her supervision, and under her teaching and mentorship, I was able to have my capacities to be more flourishing and to be more polished. And she is Miss Areeba Shahid, and she's the executive director of Pakistan Youth Change Advocates, and she's been serving in the development sector for more than 15 years. And she has also been a part of Radio Pakistan for 5 years at that time, and undoubtedly a senior one to me. And today I'm going to talk to her, and we will highlight that what are the complexities, what are the problems, that what are the challenges that the youth are facing in this country, and how we can overcome that, and what are the solutions that she always try to provide to the youth, and especially the young lot of Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Bashar.
Walaikum Assalam, Sohaib, and once again, thank you so much for having me on this show. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and hope you're doing well, and as smart as always. And Miss Ariga, coming to you, uh, how do you see the young lot, the young world, 65% of youth in Pakistan? How much mobilized are they these days?
Are they mobilized? That's the question,
Yeah.
right? Um, See, I mean, yes, we've been talking about the youth bulge forever, I would say. We're very, very aware that the large majority of the Pakistani people are young. That they're people who are either 25, 24 years or younger in age. The problem over here is that we've also, for an eternity, we've been talking about harnessing this youth pulse, right? Um, my take might sound a little pessimistic, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're doing a very good job at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the sort of opportunities that we talk about young people, those opportunities can only ever sort of come to life if we have a young workforce that is educated, that has 21st century skills, and I think that's the most important part where we're sort of failing our young people, because the sort of in terms of access of education, so a very significant number of children right now who obviously are, as they grow older, they contribute to the youth pulse, are out of school. So
Hmm.
almost 50% of the children of school going age have no access to education at all in the country.
Hmm.
Um, and so unless we have a workforce that is educated, that is skilled, to expect for it to have opportunities, I mean, that's an unfair expectation. Secondly, when we're talking about young people and we're talking about education, the connection of education in sort of, a prosperous future, the quality again is even those young people who are going to schools, for instance.
Hmm.
There are several researches in the recent past conducted within Pakistan, conducted certain international tests in which our students participated from across the country, and we are not doing well, and that is very problematic. That is, as we say in Urdu, lamha fikriya.
Mm-hmm.
This is that moment, because even those who are going to school, except for the handful who are going to maybe private schools, and not low cost private schools, but
Exactly.
right, except for that handful lot, we don't really have um, of this overwhelming youth buzz that we have. We don't have enough young people who are actually in a position to sort of take the country forward, and we really need to focus on this right now. Obviously focus on younger children, but then even unskilled youth, when we're talking about, we need to work on war footing right now.
You're much right, and I just want to know that what inspired you to become a youth activist or a person who can guide youth, who can train youth, who can give them something that they are in search of. What will you say?
I think it was partly when we started working, and so you rightly said, it's been almost a decade, mashallah, since that workshop, right?
Exactly.
I guess one reason was that even though I didn't fall in the category of youth at the time. I was much older than 24, but you know, I felt that still younger voices needed to take center stage, because as we say, been there, done that, and I'd been there, and I was like, nobody is listening to me, right? And I felt that is something that's always a missing link. Nobody really takes you seriously unless you have gray hair, and
Exactly.
right? So I really felt that needed to change. That's one thing. Um, the second thing is that when so many people in this country are young, why do they not have a seat at the table? Why are decisions being made about them
Exactly.
without them having a voice in
Exactly.
those decisions? And so I guess part of the work that when we started off, part of our mission was to sort of make up for whatever gap there was in terms of grooming these young people to really walk into practical life, because that's a struggle a lot of us experience. Um, Within the comfort of a university or a college, it's different, and once you step out into the practical world, it's a very different ball game.
Exactly.
And so we felt it's very important to give young people from everywhere in Pakistan a flavor of what it might feel like, and give them, a lot of our focus was on critical thinking skills and how to analyze situations. I remember the workshop you were part of was on pluralistic media, and so just allow young people to also understand that there will be a million opinions once they step out of their own echo chambers, right?
Exactly.
And it's most important to respect those opinions
Hmm.
and still hold your own ground. There's nothing wrong in that. But then also be able to explain why you believe in something without being defensive about it. To just be comfortable in your skin. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you're much right, and indeed, I remember that we learned a lot, and we were the young students at that time, media students, and still I consider myself as a student audience, and we just learned that how we can play a positive part. Rather than showing some sensitized issues, sensitizing something that should not prevail in our society. Why we are keep on being so critic on media, rather than showing something that has a big impact, that has a positive impact on our society, that could bring a massive change. So I was a part of that a workshop, and indeed it was a very fruitful one. And coming to you, Ms. Areeba, Shahid, you just talked about the out of school children. That's a challenge indeed, a massive challenge, I must say, these days. What are the main challenges that you face while having such kind of capacity building trainings, or even such kind of meetings with the other stakeholders, so that they could come up with the idea with something new, so that we can engage such young lot and young kids to be able to go to school?
So, alright, in terms of education, I also just quickly want to point out, I'm so sorry, I sound like the order of bad news constantly. But this is not what I'm saying, this is what the government of Pakistan,
Exactly.
The latest figures of out of school children that were just published in the report issued by the Ministry of Education and Professional Training, right? There's an institute within the ministry called Pakistan Institute for Education, PI, and so PI's latest report says that 26 million children are out of school in Pakistan. Um, 5 years ago, this number was 22.8 million. So, in terms of the number of out of school children, we have gone down very quickly, very swiftly. We understand that COVID had an impact, sort of, pushing kids in pushing children out of school. We understand that the floods that we experienced in 2022 had an impact, but at the same time, we also have countries like Nigeria before us, who obviously also, like every country in the world, experienced COVID, and the same year had a flood just as big as Pakistan's, right, in 2022. And Nigeria used to be at the top of the pyramid when it came to out-of-school children in the world. Pakistan was on number 2. Nigeria has still worked through its issues. We are now in terms of out-of-school children in the world, Pakistan is at the top. And so when we talk about, I think one of the biggest issues that one has had, which I feel, unless we address that issue, I mean, nothing is really possible, that is the shoelace education budget that we have. Unless we invest in education, we cannot bring more children to school. There are simply no schools. There is simply no money to pay more teachers, to hire more teachers, to set up more classrooms. There is simply no money for teaching aids. So unless that investment in education, that bit, I mean, we are investing the lowest in the South Asian region.
Exactly.
Right? So the problem over here is that we are surrounded by middle income and low income countries, right? So I'm not comparing us with the first world or the developed West. I'm talking about South Asia, and we are investing the least in education. And unless that, we really just look at the sort of investment we're making, we really need to give it a hard look, and we need to change that. This needs to change. More money needs to be, public investment needs to be diverted towards education. We absolutely have to bring more children to schools. We absolutely have to set up more schools. We need more teachers. We need more teaching aids. We need well-equipped classrooms. There are, I mean, so many schools with I don't know if you're aware of the concept of a single teacher multi-grade classroom. So for instance, imagine a classroom with 80 students, ranging from 5 years to 14 years, and there's one teacher for them. And throughout the day, she has to teach the 5-year-old ABC and Alif Be, and then she has to run to the other kid who's 12 and maybe, explain 4th grade science, and then run to another one and the 2nd grade math. And there's one teacher who's doing that, though it's not possible.
Exactly.
Right? And we know that in Balochistan, for instance, 70% of schools are multi-grade single teacher schools. We need to invest more in education.
Yeah, you're much right. We need to invest more in education. How do you think that the public-private partnership, can it bring a massive change in our education system?
Absolutely, and we've seen that happen.
Can you example some?
Yes, so for once, let me not just talk about what's wrong, but also what's worked. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. We've seen this in Punjab, we've seen this recently in, the same model is being adopted by Sindh, and we've seen this in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Public-private partnership has reaped brilliant results, not just in terms of bringing more children to schools, but also in terms of improving the quality that is being imparted. So the problem is not that people don't want to send their kids to schools, right? The problem essentially is that, even if in a household parents themselves are illiterate, they know that the only way they will ever break the cycle of poverty is if their child has a good education.
Exactly.
Right? So it's not that parents don't want it. But then even parents who themselves are not literate can understand that my child is not learning anything at school. And a lot of girls and boys who are eventually pulled out of school by their parents is because after a while, when parents see that their child is actually not learning anything, and so why waste that time sending them to school, and at the end of 10 years or 12 years they'll have no skill and they'll have no literacy.
Exactly.
So why not take them out of school, put them in a vocation at an early age, so at least they're able to earn and fend for themselves. And so we need to, so what public-private partnership has done, because the quality of education and the sort of teachers, they're well trained, they're more friendly, they're more empathetic, more children are staying in those schools also, right? So the model of Punjab Education Foundation, which is essentially a large public-private partnership model. The same has been adopted by Sindh, so Sindh Education Foundation, and now Pakhtunkhwa is following suit, and so there's going Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Education Foundation. And so these education foundations set up within the education departments. So while the government offers its infrastructure, the private sector steps in and takes the responsibility of the overall delivery of education in those institutes. Another thing that, for instance, in the federal area with the Federal Directorate of Education, even PYCA, what we're doing is adopting so children who are maybe between 8 and 17 years of age, who are essentially now too old to be enrolled in Kachi nursery, right? So and these children either dropped out or they've never been to school. So what the government has is a list of the number and the names of out-of-school children in a given catchment area. So for instance, what we and other organizations who work with the federal directorate, what we do is that we adopt, we will adopt one classroom, and so we'll pay for the teacher, we'll pay for the teaching aids, we'll if because we're working a lot with girl students, and transportation and safety to and from school is a huge concern. So we provide that sort of logistical support where it's needed, right? And what the government provides us is with their classroom. So we don't have to pay bills, and we don't have to set up a classroom and incur that sort of huge infrastructure cost. But if the infrastructure is there, the government provides us the list of children who need to be, who are 8 years or older and who need to be brought into schools. We provide teachers and added support, and then we help them complete through an accelerated curriculum, which is approved by the government of Pakistan. All accelerated learning centers are using the same curriculum by other organizations also, and so instead of 5 years, these children, they complete their primary education in 2.5 years. Then they appear for the board examination, and then we ensure that those children within that same government school from the accelerated or non-formal learning stream get enrolled from 6th grade onwards into the formal learning stream. And so this is one model that is also working, because otherwise it's time effective, it's efficient that way. That even children who have missed out on the conventional years in which they should have been in school, they still have a second chance at education, and then they spend 2.5 years in the non-formal education stream, and then they're moved to the formal education stream.
That's good to know that right now some NGOs and even the people like you, they are working even not only to mobilize the youth, but also to make them a productive one, especially the out of school children and the kids that are willing to learn more and more, but due to lack of infrastructure, due to lack of resources, they are out of school. And even you're much right that I do agree with you that their parents, if they are not showing any interest in the education, they keep on sending them to some vocation, or even to get some to a shop or a workshop, so that they could learn some skills. And if they are learning that from a ustad, maybe they could become ustad tomorrow.
Yes.
And they might earn more than
Inshallah.
a person that had a degree in his hand. You're much right, and we're gonna just take your notes on this issue, that only degree matters or degree with skills, how much is imperative, and how we can do that, or how we can make such a massive change at our educational level by bringing some reforms. So dear audience, it's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Just stay with us.